Hello, my name is James Felcon, and I'm here to talk about my latest short film, 519. I guess this is an analysis type of thing, maybe a commentary. I won't be discussing the significance of anything. I feel like that's sort of your job as an audience to project onto it, but I will sort of give more background as to how I made it and what my mind and where my mind was when I was shooting it. Probably the question I get the most about it just is what is happening in it, what's going on, what is it about. And to that I always say just watch it again, because all the information is right there. And I think asking that question sort of makes the viewer more engaged as they go on, to try to figure out what is going on, what happened here, and what is the goals of this character, and what is where's his head at. So I wanted to start the film with something really visually striking, something to, hook viewers on, and I settled on a shot of the broken clock close up, and then immediately a shot of my face to draw that comparison. And this shot was actually the last one I shot, because I couldn't make the face properly. It was pretty difficult to try to encapsulate that. Originally, I only wrote in one shot for the penguins, and that was this one, and I figured, well, if I was going to introduce this, I have to keep calling back to it, and I have to add on in its significance. So this scene in particular is the only one where I use a telephoto lens, which is this one, and so and when you're shooting alone, you don't know your frames as well as if you had someone behind the camera telling you where it would be. So I had to kind of guess every time I put the penguins up, and I had to get it super focused too. So I had to stay on the same X and Y, I guess, and it took a couple of tries. It was one of the more difficult ones. So this scene might have been the first one I shot, and I wanted to hammer home the fact that him and the clock, I wanted to draw more connections between them. So at the beginning, they had their faces together, and now he's seeing himself in the clock. And it's also kind of like the crossing of the threshold in this story, because it makes him go and try to discover an identity, I suppose. I chose to do the axe first because he's kind of like fiddly with it. He decides, oh, I guess I could use this before ultimately searching for something better. And I think it's a really good introduction to sort of the goofy, sort of like childish side of this character. And because I wanted him to be a little bit childish, I also put him in like the most childish clothes I could find. I mean, I knew I wanted to put him in pajama bottoms, but I also put him in a Captain America t-shirt, which I've had for a good bit of time. I also have the Captain America poster in the background the whole time. So also in these scenes, I wanted to make it look like sort of a stage. On top of that, I wanted it to be sort of symmetrical with his darker closet of junk and his junk bed on one side and him on the other, perfectly split by this divider in my room. And so you'll see it actually perfectly in the center frame. And if you really pay close attention, each shot, starting with the axe and ending with me holding the balls with the bells in them, they get lower. So in the axe shot, the stage, it's like looking down on him more, and as he descends into madness, the shot also descends and looks up at him and makes him more imposing. And I think this shot right here might be the most important shot in the entire short film. Not only does it show that the penguins are sort of like watching him throughout the whole thing, and you get their perspective of his madness, it also serves to break down and push down the barrier in between the screen. And I do it totally by accident. I sort of delve into, I break down the difference between the dirt and me, and it sort of is an acceptance by accident. In that shot, I also sort of give almost a look of resignation, which I would later give at the end, like, what am I doing? before, like, almost saying one more time and then going back in. I wanted to directly parallel the shot of my face in the clock, where I could see my reflection, and the shot of my face in the goggles, in which it's all distorted and warped, and all you could see is colors and prisms. To sort of show that he wants to change what he looks like, who he is, and everything about his identity, to have it all scrambled. I decided to make this one, though, more close and more intimate, and where you can only really see his two eyes. And so his two eyes and the two eyes of the goggles are staring at each other in some sort of way. And that was probably one of the biggest issues with this short, is that I had to keep my room dirty in order to keep the continuity. So it was not only challenging to live in total slop, like my room is normally slop, but this was total slop. I also had to like wear the same clothes every day, and it was just not too great. And this is really the turning point for all of it. It's where the music stops. I come into frame, and I'm holding these balls close to the frame. I tried this in a variety of different ways. Originally, I was on my knees, sort of like worshiping, I suppose, and before doing this sinister grin. And I wanted to really give this character a specific, like, smiling, happy face. So I did a big toothy one, which looks really weird with the goggles and the fez. I had to really think of all the different ways I could make these objects, significant in the frame. And so I tried different things. I tried throwing the balls up in the air. I tried, in this shot, I put it in my ear and I like stretch. I made a little miniature obstacle course where I could like roll it down. I whipped the fez around a bunch, and I wanted to show like the perspective of the goggles. So I wanted to incorporate how all of them are sort of making their way into these shots. And when his anger and his confidence build up enough, he breaks the clock. Even more, I suppose. Which I did not originally plan for when I was writing this script. I didn't know how it would end. I needed a definite climax. And when I didn't originally want to throw the second one, it just kind of happened out of like I guess passion, and I knew I only have one shot, so I wanna just throw it down as hard as I could. And now we return to this shot, which is pretty much the exact opposite of the shot before, where it's looking totally at me, and most of the ceiling is in frame, and it's looking up at me, and I'm imposing. In this one, it's tons of the floor is in frame, and it's looking as far down at me as it does in the film. And I just sort of realized that my confidence was just crazy, I suppose. And I sort of give the laugh as I come back down to the bed. And one last shot, after the credits, the clock is seen one more time, and it's one of the only moving shots in the film, as I move closer to it, and the clock now says 5:20, which I guess says time is moving on, and maybe the clock works, or maybe it's symbolic of him moving on, or who knows. My clock is currently on my wall, and it always says 5:20. It just is like that now. And I'm pretty sure most people picked up on this, but just in case you didn't, this short film called 519 was uploaded on 519 at 519, and it's 5 minutes and 19 seconds long, even though YouTube sometimes says that it's 5 minutes and 20 seconds long, which is kind of annoying, but... one thing that I really wanted to do with this short in particular was keep great continuity. And I did slip up. I believe there's 3 slip-ups in the film of continuity. So if you want to go through and try to find those, let me know if you find any. I'll include a link to this short film somewhere, as well as the short film that I made before this, Pulling Your Weight, which I also really enjoy. It might be some of my best work as well, and if you want to see all of my short films or maybe browse them, I have a playlist which I will also link. It includes Pulling Your Weight, No School, Playing the Game, Trigger Happy, and Pilgrimage, I believe. I also made a little commercial or two, which might be there. So, enjoy, have a nice day, and thank you for watching.